Cool. So this is our NBA bubble episode. We got 4 panelists today. Myself, Tim, the usual, and then we got Nick coming back, and a newcomer. We got Alex joining the fray. So guess we could just start off with what we've thought so far about the bubble. Any surprises, like surprise teams. I just saw a thing actually today that there has been no COVID cases since August 5th. So that's
honestly, that's my biggest take of the bubble. Like, we'll get to the players and the teams, but like, if you look, I honestly going into it just didn't really feel good about it. It was like, someone is going to go out and get this, and they're all going to be stuck in the same spot, and then they'd be screwed.
Yeah.
Besides, like, lemon pepper Lou, there's been no issues, no positive tests, no anything. Now you see like baseball, and they've had 2 outbreaks in teams, let alone positive tests, like outbreaks.
Yeah.
And then you look, college football canceled. Even the Indians just suspended their players for making a mockery of the rules. Like, just of a league, I think NHL is doing great too, but the NBA didn't have the advantage of having half their teams located in another country that didn't have a lot of tests or positive tests up there.
True.
And they had the logistics behind it to make it work in another country. But my first impression for the bubble is how successfully it is actually working. Like, you see between football and having no idea and baseball and how much of a disaster that is, I'm very, very, very impressed with how the NBA handled it.
Yeah, I've always been somebody who says, like, with large organizations, you either go with the the fish analogy where you rot from the head down, or you just prosper from the perfect seed planted. And I got to tell you, Adam Silver, I think, is the best commissioner in sports, and the guy has impressed me since the first 3 weeks it was in as commish. He had the Donald Sterling thing happen, and I thought he handled it as well as humanly possible. He's always had a great relationship with the NBA Players Association. The viewing has been fantastic. Like, as a fan watching it on TV, like, I find the games actually exciting. Like, I was nervous it was going to be like exciting. It was going to feel like I was watching pickup gym basketball. And I got to tell you, like, I think they did a great job with the court, the arena. I think the virtual fan thing is cool. I do
like the virtual fan a lot better than the cutouts. I'll give them that too.
Yeah, Lil Wayne's giving high fives to random people.
Yeah.
Somebody brought
it's good. I am impressed with how they did it. I always said that the players had the most motivation out of any of the sports in the NBA to play. Like, LeBron's not getting he's not getting younger. He can't afford to waste a year and these championship talks and stuff. Eventually we'll look back on it and it'll say champion. I think you look down at it, eventually they're going to treat it the same.
Yeah. One thing about what you just said, Nick, is I thought it was going to be kind of slow, like players getting back into it, but I think they said this has been the highest scoring couple of weeks we've had for NBA games. So, I mean, look at some of the players are averaging ridiculous numbers already in just 6-7 games. Rested. So
think about it. It's like the ultimate load management. They all got a 4-month load management before they had to play another game.
The Kawhi method.
It's working for everyone.
The first night back, both games were 2-point games decided in the last 30 seconds. So it was first 2 games, and I'm on the edge of my seat again. I'm like, yes, sports are back. I got that that excitement. I agree with Tim. I think the real winner here, I think, is Adam Silver and the NBA as a whole. I think they put a product out there. They've kept them safe. And it's really impressive. I mean, if we're going to call, Lemon Pepper Lou
he's been the biggest. He's been the only issue. Didn't even test positive, but he's been the only, not even issue, but he's been the only, word you heard about.
Where did he go? A strip club or something?
Magic City. And by the way, the wings look fantastic. I mean, I might have to stop over some of those. that might have been worth the quarantine time. But you have a league that seems to stay out of scandal for that's the worst. And then you have look at the NFL during this time. You had Darius Geist, domestic abuse. You got all this other stuff. There's 2 other guys who were arrested.
DeAndre Baker going to jail.
Yeah, you got.
I don't know how he's getting out of that one.
Yeah.
And the NBA just has this thing about them, and I think honestly, I think a lot of it is the professionalism of the league, and I think that comes from the top down. I think that's Silver gives them a voice. I think Silver puts out a great platform, and that's really my big takeaway. I'm a big fan, supporter. I think that I hope that Adam Silver is the commissioner for the next 2 days. I really do.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Skeletor does a good job, so give him that much. Any thoughts, Alex?
I mean, Yeah, I mean that was gonna be my first takeaway. Team Rona has been kept out.
Team Rona.
And all the correct teams have been kept in. So, and the play of everybody. There's some teams with people struggling, but aside from that, you guys have like the Suns coming out of nowhere and players like TJ Warren lighting up the scoreboard. So, all of that's just like it's almost like watching college sports. Like anybody can go off at any point.
Yeah.
Which makes it, something that fans are willing to watch even more than before. So, yeah, I'm right there with you guys.
It does have that March Madness vibe because there's not been really too many blowouts either. Like most games have been pretty close, and like you said, players are coming out of nowhere like TJ Warren. And the Suns are now 7-0, and I think they're like game out, but they need help. I think they need the Bucks to lose or something. But Giannis isn't playing, so you never know.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got just biggest surprises so far was the Suns coming out of nowhere. The Pelicans were really disappointing. I feel like.
For the surprise team thing, I put that was my thing with Pelicans is one like they basically opened this up so to the extra team so they could get Zion on national TV, and he didn't play at all his first year. Like the NBA literally made this rules. They had the play-in game so they could justify having the Pelicans there pretty much. And to come in and they were a game away from the 9 seed, which we got in the playoff game, and now they've gone 2-5. Zion has not played at all, which is just I really thought this would be one of his moments. Like you got to let the guy play. You got to build around your franchise. You got to want to start winning. Like if you want Ingram to re-sign, you got to show that you actually care about winning. If you're not going to play Zion more than 15 minutes, especially letting him sit in the game where it's like they've had close games and they just let him sit in at the last couple minutes. Like, is 2 more minutes going to kill the guy?
Right. No, I hear you. Not having one more at the end of the fourth quarter was just idiotic.
I was just like, at what point are you like 30 seconds isn't going to hurt the guy, but he'll definitely win us this game?
No, it's just unacceptable. And if your answer at the podium is going to be like, well, we only going to give him 5-minute burst, then make his 5 minutes the last 5 minutes.
Act like you want to win.
Like it's mind blowing to me. I'll say that I think that I was disappointed about the Pelicans because they have so much young talent, and I liked the trajectory they were on before the break. And I thought having all that time to rest, get better, and then also somebody made a point once about being like, usually from your rookie to your second year is about 3 months off. So I thought we were going to see all these young guys come up with like almost like a next level step up. You got Lonzo, you got Zion, you got Ingram, you got Hart. And I thought that they were all going to take this like collective step, Jackson Hayes, and it just didn't happen. But on the flip, I'm really impressed with Portland. I think that
they played well.
I think that Dame has finally gotten to the point where he's sick of the disrespect, and I think that he's a guy. I was talking about the barbershop yesterday. Like he's a guy that you just like because he's so real. Like he's a real dude. Like that's who he's not doing it for the camera. Like he's from Oakland. He wears number 0, not for number 0, but for Oakland. I don't know if you knew that. Like that's
I did not know that.
That's why he wears 0. It's not supposed to be a 0. It's supposed to be an O. Like he lives, breathes. He's the same guy through and through. Like I love that about him. He's going absolutely off. He's always had that ability. But because he plays in the West Coast, he plays in the Pacific Northwest, he just doesn't get the TV time. He doesn't get like that notoriety. Unless you're like a true, basketball fan, you don't really understand how talented that guy actually is.
Well, most of that, I mean, like playing on the West Coast that far, most of his games are late. So most of the East Coast misses them. But I did want to touch back on one thing before Alex and Dakota go over their surprise teams. Another team that fit me with the Pelicans, like a young team that is disappointed, is I was surprised by how they just laid an egg as the Grizzlies. I thought that they had the 8th seed before the restart. Like you were in the playoffs. They had a nice hot streak going. John Morant was balling really good. They had a good attitude to them. They had that little, verbal scuffle with Iguodala with some of the young teammates, and they wanted to be taken serious, and man, they just laid an egg. I do think that this bubble is easily better for the veteran players. They clearly took the 3 months to rest their body and get ready to run. I don't. It's pretty much shown as the younger teams weren't ready for this as much as the veterans. But I think that just comes with experience. But yeah, I was very surprised by it.
Well, they have what's his name? Jaren Jackson is on that team, and he did nothing.
He got hurt too. That was a brutal injury for them. He's really good. But yeah, those are my two disappointment surprises. But I figure you guys will be, positive polys and give some good news. What teams you like?
You can go, Alex.
One of the teams that surprises me was the Thunder. They just surprised me since
the beginning of the season. Yeah,
Billy Donovan, baby, co-coach of the year.
Yeah, they didn't skip a beat. Like after losing like your star player and getting like a veteran point guard, I thought that something was going to drop off. But and playing in the West, like that's hard alone. So to see them kind of succeed and to me, I feel like the Trailblazers they're good. They're going off right now. Dame's leading the way. But they surprise me every year in terms of like bottom half of the West. They have talent. There's no doubt about that. But
yeah,
it's just
they're healthier than they were.
I thought they were higher in the seeding, like while the season was going on. Like I thought they were like 4th or 5th at one point, but now they're like fighting for that A spot. McCollum and Dame are a great little tandem there, and then of course Melo's on that team still. But yeah, they're weird. I mean, Dame he's one of my top 3 players that I was looking at, and I mean he scored 51 against the Sixers, and then he had 45 in a 61-point game. He's averaging 37. Like after he missed those 2 the free throws against the Clippers, I think it was
shocking too. That was,
and he was like, all right, I'll play for real now. And just started going off. So, yeah, he's something. But one guy I guess team that's going to be in is the Mavs. And Luka, like I never was like too hype about him. Like always thought he was going to be a really good player and all. And then like this past year, especially in the bubble, he's just so impressive. Like
he was pretty amazing before he went.
I agree.
He was really balling.
I think I was under like. Not really evaluating him as much. Like I didn't really build into that hype because I didn't watch the Mavs a lot.
I like the Mavs. I like the Kristoff and Luka combo for offense, but I mean, unless they get a rim protector,
I'm not saying they're winning the finals, but
but I mean, I do like them as a team. But Porzingis reminds me defensively of like Dirk always had a rim protector next to him, and it helped him more to have that. Porzingis cannot protect her. He's 7, like whatever, but he's just he can't cover these centers down there. They need a rim protector to go along with that. I think it'll help them both a lot.
Yeah,
but
I brought Dakota to the Mavs game this year. Unfortunately, Luka got hurt 4 days before we went to the game. But Porzingis, man, you don't realize how large he is. Like he is huge, and the guy's got a sweet stroke. Like his shot is pretty. And I think, honestly, if you're that team, I think if you're the Mavs, I don't even think you go rim protector. I think you go more that, not Warrior-style basketball, but I think you got another playmaker shooter in the wing. And then I'm thinking about having a guy at 7'3". You got Luka, and if you can get somebody out there, keep your Seth Currys of the world who just are going to shoot 43% from 3. But if they could get another ball-handling, scoring wing, I think going, because no team can have everything. Like, no team is everything. You got to figure out, like, where can you just have such an advantage that it makes up for, the things you're not so great at.
I still, like, defensively, Porzingis, he's a smooth shooter and he's tall, but defensively he has always just let me down.
What did the Knicks even get from that trade? Like,
well, you mentioned the Warriors, but, like, Draymond Green was playing center most of the time. They got away with that. Durant wasn't. Yeah, I said even when Dirk was there, he had, Josh Howard was the team. They played a little bit of everyone. Haywood, they had the rim protectors that let him get out further in space. Didn't have to worry about a center being on because they could just shoot over everyone.
Right.
I defensively too. I think they could really use a rim protector. Plus, it comes in, what we were talking about with Simmons. Like, I'd rather use my best offensive guys and, take it easy on defensive end. Maybe I don't want Kristoff covering the rim on every play if he's going to be my, number 1 or 2 option on offense the next series.
Yeah. But yeah, so going off that, so I asked you guys to kind of look at like who you thought were top 3 players in the bubble or just players you really liked watching so far. So I'm just gonna say mine since I was just talking about Luka to me, because I just looked at his stats like right before this, and he's averaging a triple double in the bubble, like 32 points per game, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. Like he's going off, like, and he's like looking really smooth doing it too. It's not like he's taking 60 shots or whatever. It's like he's making good shots. He's playing defense. He's opening space, finding his teammates. He's just all around like getting better and better. So if the Mavs were playing better, like if they were like Suns right now and were winning games more, because I think they're like 3-5 in the bubble.
Yeah.
I think he like MVP of the bubble. I think he would have been more consideration. But Luka for me has just been one of my favorite players to watch so far.
I had surprise players. I try to do it for the people and for educational purposes, but I went out of the way and did some real research for. I went with two teammates just because they're pretty obscure and they're not like, I wouldn't say light the world on fire.
Okay.
But you probably didn't think about them. But a surprise team in general, another surprise team was that the Nets are 5-2. You had, well, first off, you have KD and Kyrie both hurt, and that's no matter what way you can say. I know KD didn't play and Kyrie barely played. That's still like, I would say 60% of your salary cap for this season that had to go to non-players.
Yeah.
Then you had Spencer Dinwiddie, who was probably their best player pre the restart. DeAndre Jordan and Wilson Chandler all opt out before they start.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were talking about signing Michael Beasley, then he got corona. I didn't even know who they were going to field. Then they went 5-2. Very impressive. My two guys that I went with is one, the TLC, Timothy Luau Cabaret or something in French,
Something in French.
He's got the same name as me, so it always intrigues me.
Yeah.
My name has some international appeal. And then Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson, I didn't even realize was traded after the first game in the bubble. He played the first game with the Suns and then got traded, which I was surprised by. But since he's got traded and he's been on the Nets, he's 11.5, 3 assists and 4 boards per game in the bubble with the Nets. That's pretty good. Get your minutes since Booker's not there. And then TLC has been averaging a little over 14 and 4 rebounds a game. He's inconsistent. He's not – I won't say he's killing the world, but 3 games he did go over 20 points, shot 8 for 12 each time. But, I mean, as a team in general, they're a big surprise team, and those 2 big players, like, for out of nowhere surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, someone had to take advantage of the minutes. Like, if Michael Beasley was being talked about being your team, you clearly are going to have open minutes somewhere. And those are 2 guys that I think feasted off of them, especially Johnson getting traded in the bubble and doing it.
I'm a little bit upset that you brought up the Nets because I was going to say that one of the people that I was really impressed with was their coach because they only had 8 guys for practice the other day. And he had so he actually
see, look, they'll set you up there.
He had I saw the coach with his shorts on because they only had 8 guys for practice the other day, and for them to be playing as well as they are in the bubble is such an amazing. It's such an amazing thing because what I think a lot of people aren't thinking about is so many of these basketball contracts are 1 or 2 years. So these guys are always trying to compete and get another deal. And then you got to think of a team like the Nets who have 2 max contract guys with KD and Kyrie. It's kind of like LA with LeBron and AD. Like they're going to eat up a lot of the salary cap. And then it's like, who is going to feel like you're a complementary piece to them? And I think that it's really important that these guys who maybe wouldn't have got this time, like a TJ Warren was traded for cash considerations, not even a play. Like they traded cash considerations for arguably one of the best players in the restart, and he looks like TJ.
He's pretty nasty. I mean, he can always score, but I think he could score like this.
No, I mean, I at NC State he looked fantastic, and like I watched him in college a little bit, and he was balling. But I think that people always forget that like the NBA only has 15 guys in a roster, and the 15th guy on the roster on many teams, if given an opportunity, could be a great player. But a lot of times, you get stuck into a narrative, like sort of we talked about how the Sixers got kind of stuck overpaying for Tobias. Well, when you look at the trades that they did for Jimmy and Tobias in a win now, if Jimmy walks and Tobias walks, somebody in the front office gets fired because they gave up too many assets for a rental to go out in the second round. So it's like that could have been an opening for a younger guy or somebody else to step in. But somebody
I agree. No, I mean the players that are making the most of their opportunity, it's great. You brought about the 15 roster spots on the team. You look at the Nets; they've had 3 opt-outs, Kyrie confirmed he's not going to come back, and then you trade it for Tyler Johnson in the bubble. Like that's plus the Michael Beasley thing. That's 5 roster spots that have changed in some way from when they restarted.
Yeah, Nets are quietly really solid, and once next year rolls around and they have KD, they might be a little scary to play against. But
they're my pick to be the surprise team of the East next year. Like, I think they're going to be I think they're going to be around the 3 seed. I think you're going to see them in that hovering 3-4, especially if KD comes back healthy. If KD comes back healthy, they might be the 2 seed. Like they honestly may be.
Yeah. Alex, any surprise players or players you picked up on?
I mean, everybody surprises me. Like we talked about earlier, to see everybody play at the level that they're playing now, without 3 months of practice, 3+ months of practice. I'm glad you brought up TJ Warren. I'm not much of a hater, but there's something about TJ Warren that I just can't get behind. I just don't know what it is. I'm through and through. I'm an underdog kind of guy, but it's just something about him. I'm just like, I feel like this is wrong.
Those 31 points per game and 6 boards aren't enough for you, huh?
Yeah, if it was anybody, I mean, I'm all about D-Book right now. He's going off.
Yeah.
He's helping his team win. Same thing with Dame. I mean, I've always been a Dame fan of Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who comes from Weber State.
We lost him.
Yeah, just keep rolling. He'll come back.
But I think someone who somebody who hasn't got as much exposure, just because I think we expect it out of him. Jason Tatum, he's always solid. Aside from the game against the Celtics, I think he only scored like 5 points, but since then he's been the average, 30 or 20+ scorer that we expect him to be. So yeah, I mean, like, he's Celtics number 3 in the East. Again, something we expect from that team and Jason Tatum, but to see him, doing as well as he's doing is good.
Yeah, I'm not going to say from the bubble, but I will say when you talk about the Celtics, when the Celtics drafted Jaylen Brown, I can remember being like, why did they just take Jaylen Brown? Like, I thought that he was like the 6th man at Cal. He wasn't really like that impressive to me. He had he has the NBA body. He's long. He's athletic. He can switch multiple positions. I'm genuinely like so wrong about how his game is translated to the NBA. And I think sometimes we forget that college basketball and the NBA are 2 very different play styles.
Oh yeah.
And when, like his game is meant for the NBA. And he's not meant to be like, I think we always judge people on like, oh, can you be a number 1 scorer? Can you be the go-to guy? And like, I don't think on any team he would be the number 1 guy, but I think he's a like perfect 2A player. Not like your best 2nd guy, but not quite somebody you'd consider a 3rd guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that 2A slot where like, the Celtics have 3 guys averaging 20 points between Kemba, Jaylen, and Jason Tatum. And I think just any night he can get you 25. He's gonna play great defense. He's gonna hustle. All the reports. I'm from the Boston area. All the reports are like he's like a great human. People really like him. I thought for sure he was going to be a trade, but now I would feel like they totally shoot themselves in the foot if they get rid of Jaylen Brown at this point.
Yeah, so that kind of can use that as like a segue for kind of who we think is going to go, represent, play in the East to get into the finals and play in the West to get into the finals. And I think it's actually going to be Bucks and Celtics. I think the Celtics are going to surprise people. I think, with Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and then I think even Gordon Hayward is playing really well. And then Kemba's averaging 20, but he's, been kind of, I think he's been hurt a little bit. So once he gets going and, they start really fueling, because their coach, I think, just got an extension too, Brad Stevens.
Yeah, a lot of coaches got one. McMillan just got one too.
Yeah, I saw that. But yeah, I think Bucks and Celtics is a good lock for the East. I think the Raptors are definitely in consideration, which I'm still surprised that they're, the loss of Kawhi and how much they gave up to get him, they're still they're the 2 seed, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DeRozan's punching the air right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. This is gonna be like a little bit of a shock, but I think it's gonna be Toronto and Miami in the East.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Toronto and Miami because I think if you look the way the seeds break down, first of all, I don't trust Milwaukee in the playoffs. I just to be honest with you, like they haven't impressed me in the playoffs, and there's nobody on the team they added that makes me feel better. I mean, they lost Malcolm Brogdon. They didn't move
Yeah,
into
that was big.
they didn't move into a place, and I think that the playoffs, especially in a format like this, is going to come down to like team mentality. And I think the Miami Heat are rough riders, especially led by Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Toronto is just going to ride that whole, like, you counted us out because we lost Kawhi. You counted us out. And they've been playing like that. They don't have a stud defender, but they're playing great team defense because they have to. And they're just – and they can get – they're going to get their buckets. This guy's going to get 15. This guy's going to get 15. Fred VanVleet's going to get 20. There's not going to be a 35-point scorer. But I think they're just going to chip away, couple 6-game series. And I think it's going to be, the Raptors and the Heat. I really do.
Interesting. I do apologize for that. I don't know what happened. Something to do with Wi-Fi and internet that I don't understand.
It's probably because Nick thought
all right,
Jimmy Butler was going to lead the Heat.
So the Jimmy Butler of the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Final. Who do you have in the finals?
It's tough. I feel like the West. I still feel like it's LA versus LA. Like
I agree.
I would agree with you there. Yeah.
Nobody in the West has really the
maybe
Suns.
The Nuggets, maybe the Rockets, but
listen, when it comes to the playoffs, I always feel like there's two things. You either need to have the best player on the court, or you need to have that just dog team mentality, which I was talking about with the Heat in the playoffs. You might win a game, but these series are long, and you got a lot of chess that gets played. You got to be able to adjust. You got to have a couple guys who are going to have just big games. You got to have bounce back games. I think both LA teams. Personally, I still would never pick somebody to beat LeBron. I'm still not ready to say I feel, and I've just never had that much faith in Paul George. Like, I'm going to be honest. I think Paul George is I think he's a great 2A player. Mm-hmm. But I think if you think that he's a tier 1 player and he's just not there.
Well, no, I mean, I think he's that. I agree. I do agree with you. I think he's a 2A. I think he's a 2 player, but Kawhi's a number 1 without a doubt. And Paul George is playing as well. I would also argue, I think Anthony Davis is a 2 player. I think Anthony Davis and Paul George are both 2 players. If Davis was a 1, he would have done more with New Orleans than he did.
Yeah.
He hasn't been even playing that well in the bubble, Davis.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I didn't see coming with the bubble is a lot of these teams don't care. The Lakers and Bucks haven't cared for a majority of the games. I will going off that, though. I agree with you. I think it's going to be LA and LA in the West. The only team that I'm kind of worried about is I think that the Denver Nuggets are kind of a sneaky team. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we mentioned it with the surprise player since I got kicked out, but Michael Porter Jr. has been pretty nasty in the bubble. Yeah. He's been averaging 24. If he can be the third star on that Nuggets team with Murray and Jokic, they could be good. They could be a pretty good team. Jokic is great passing, and if you give another outside shooter to Jokic between him and Porter and Murray, I think they can make noise. But I would say LA and LA. I do have I think the Clippers are just a deeper and better overall team. So I have them going a little further. I think, I have faith in Leonard. The guy just usually cruises through the regular season, doesn't really care that much. I don't think he put too much stock into the bubble. His seed was pretty much wrapped up, but I do think he's going to turn it on once the playoffs start, as he does. In the East is a little more crapshoot. I think it's going to be the Bucks, and, the Heat's not a bad idea. I do agree with a lot of what Nick said. Mm-hmm. I think it's the Bucks and the Clippers, though. I think the Bucks need to win this. I think you talk about a team that needs this more. This is their year. Leonard left. I know the Raptors are, they're a good team, but without Leonard, it's going to be really hard to repeat. The Sixers have completely fallen off. The injuries have killed them. Celtics are inconsistent. Miami's got holes, but I would say the Bucks have to win. Giannis is about to be a free agent very soon. If he doesn't think that they're going to win in Milwaukee, he's not going to stay in Milwaukee. But if they can win this year, which I think is their best chance, because I think the East is taking a dip between the Sixers being hurt and Kawhi leaving. Before Kyrie and Kevin Durant come back next year, because once he comes back next year and the Sixers are maybe healthy and maybe have a new coach and the Celtics have another year to gel, I think next year gets a lot harder. I think this is his year to win the championship. If they want to keep him, this is the year that they got to win. I think that it's Bucks versus Clippers. Coin toss, but I think that Giannis wins this year. I think that Milwaukee takes their chance. The East has really fallen off. It's not a good year for them in the bubble, but if you factor in the Clippers have not played a lot of basketball, I think a town alone they can get by. But I think that you play a team that has all chemistry, where the Clippers have none and the Bucks have all chemistry because they all play together. Mm-hmm. I think that the Bucks. I think it's Giannis's year this year, and I take them.
How are you feeling, Alex, in the East and West?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks for the East.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like you said earlier, Giannis has a lot to lose. The Bucks have a lot to lose. There's a lot of pressure on them, and I think, especially with Giannis, I think that he's the type of guy who's going to step up. And they have a lot of pieces there to get the ball rolling. As far as the West, that's tough. Obviously, Lakers, Clippers. The Clippers, I think, have a little bit more depth, and in a 7-game series, could take it. But having said that, means you're betting against LeBron in the playoffs.
You know what? You could say that about Leonard, though. I wouldn't bet against Leonard either. They're both kind of those magical players.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, LeBron has some 6th, 7th, 8th gear once he gets to the playoffs.
I hear that, and I think that he'll benefit from a year off. Who do you have winning it all between them then? The Lakers and Bucks.
I feel good story. I want Giannis to win.
Okay.
I also want LeBron to win.
I'll take one.
It's just I don't know. I'll have to go with the Bucks though.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be pushed. And
see, I think Go, I'll let you finish.
This is gonna be the last chance that they get. Like you said, the competition is gonna step up. It's gonna ramp up next year. So, it's gonna have to be
keep him around.
Yeah,
I will say real fast.
Yeah.
The biggest difference between the Eastern Conference playoffs last year and this year is that Kawhi Leonard and Ben Simmons were both in it, and those are two of my top 5 options in the NBA to cover Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Ben and Leonard are a few players that really match up well with him. Problem with the Bucks, I think that Paul George, Leonard, LeBron, or Anthony Davis would line up pretty nicely against Giannis as well. And yeah, they're going to need other players to step up because I think defensively the Clippers and Lakers both have what it takes to shut him down. The East probably doesn't without Leonard and Simmons there. I really Jimmy Butler he's given up too much size. Maybe Tatum would be, I don't know, Marcus Smart, I think he's given up too much size again. You need someone that's big that can handle him and all the physicality he's bringing. And I don't see anyone in the Eastern Conference doing that. I know. I mean, I would expect it. I think it's Smart and Butler. I think those are the ones that take the assignment on if they play them in the Eastern Conference Finals. But man, you're giving up so much height. You're talking 6 inches. This guy's clearly a 7-footer. I think that just the teams that can shut him down and they're built to play the player that he is. Leonard proved last year he could handle him. I think George could do it too. Davis has obviously got the size and he's been balling out defensively. And then LeBron's LeBron. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think my big thing is I think one, I don't have the faith in the Bucks. I'll just be that's just until they prove it to me. They're a team I need to see.
Fair enough.
But I also the moment where I started to feel like some of that tension is sort of unwrapped was that Giannis headbutt. What is going on? Dude, if LeBron James went to the point where he headbutted somebody else during a basketball game. Okay, that would not leave Sports Center for 2.5 weeks. Okay? That is
I would agree with that. Yeah, no, you're right about that.
That is a move that you do when you're pissed off in Rucker Park. That is not something you do in an NBA. There becomes a certain status line where you just can't throw tantrums or real stupid things. And that was a moment where I'm where does that frustration come from? Because he obviously doesn't feel as good about himself and his chances. If in a meaningless game, he's going and headbutting, another NBA player.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you there. Now, the one thing I said, and I mentioned I don't like, is the resting of the players. Like, you had 4 months off. You're playing 8 games or 9 games or whatever it is, and the playoffs starting. You really need to rest these guys. Those extra games, like, if I'm the Bucks, get some momentum. If I'm the Sixers who have no momentum, play these guys. Try to win games. You're playing and playoff caliber talent, no matter who you're playing against. Like, that's the whole bubble. Like, you want to get some momentum. Why don't you win? Why don't you go look at the Suns? If they get in the playoffs, they're going to have the most momentum in the whole league. Why wouldn't you want to win these games? They have so much time off. I don't see the point in resting. I'm sure you could say you're risking injury, but at the same time, it's like 9 games. I'd rather them get in the moment. I think maybe the Bucks are kind of frustrated because they've lost some bad games. I mean, they lost the Wizards mostly because of their own fault. They just take their own players and have no interest in winning. But I mean, LeBron, don't forget, LeBron stepped over Draymond Green in the finals. Like, I think that's right up there with the level of, just notoriety is headbutting someone randomly on the Wizards.
Time out. A Philly guy is going to talk about he stepped over a guy when we glorified the Allen Iverson step. And he,
but LeBron
he did it.
LeBron James put his nuts in Draymond Green's face, and he wanted him to smell him. He stood there. He was standing there. If he kept on walking, it'd be over. But he stood there and hung out. I would have charged him for parking.
Allen Iverson. Stop.
Yeah, but he was quick. AI just does I'm gonna move down the other floor. LeBron was waiting. He's like, how do I smell?
That's such a
maybe, probably, but you brought him up, so that's like the most controversial thing I could think of next to a headbutt. But Gazelle, maybe I missed it while I was trying to get my internet down. But who's your final pick?
Well, so I mean, I agree with what Nick was saying about the Bucks, but I also look at it like the East is so weak, and the teams that would threaten the Bucks would be the Raptors, who don't have a elite player to take over games, in my opinion. And
I agree. Good team though. Good team, but it's gonna be tough.
The Celtics, I think, are the biggest. So I had Bucks versus Celtics, and I think the Bucks will win that one, probably like 6 games. And then Lakers and Clippers on the other side. And I think the final is going to come down to the Bucks and the Clippers. And I just think, looking at the Clippers roster, they're the most balanced. Like, they have the most talent, I think, at the right spots, and they have a good bench. And Kawhi and PG are a great little tandem there, and 2 of the best defenders too. So I think Clippers will win the finals over the Bucks. But it's a shame. I look at the Sixers, and I think, even though they haven't played, particularly well, I think if Ben and Embiid were both healthy, that they would give teams trouble. Like, I think, especially now that Al Horford isn't on the Celtics, I think that was their biggest stumbling block against them. So I think they would have played better against the Celtics. I think they would have defended better against Giannis. But yeah, without Ben and a limping Embiid, I don't think the Sixers might not even make it out of the first round, to be honest. So, well, I saw a stat that Ben, he guards the highest amount of NBA all-stars or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he goes against the toughest competition.
Because he's got the height and the skill to guard anyone. The problem with him, and this is the issue when we played the Raptors, is when he takes on like Kawhi and covers them himself, he's brutal on the offense, man, because the guy's probably exhausted from running around. He's your lead point guard.
Yeah.
Your point guard normally isn't taking on the best wing player on the other team.
Well, he's not the point guard anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean,
he was playing power forward, wasn't he?
I got no excitement for that. I still think Brown needs to go. I don't believe in any switches he's
I've been giving him the benefit of the doubt for so long, but now
I'm so done with him.
I've had enough.
I always said that the reason he's still here is because it's all sentiment on the guy stayed with us and lost during the process. But, like, how could you judge a coach after 4 years when he was expected to lose? Like, maybe the guy just sucked and we just never knew because we weren't.
I think the tough part is they signed him up knowing that he was going to be the rebuild guy. Like, hey, you're coming in. We're going to be terrible for 3 or 4 years.
Exactly.
But the tough thing is, like, you don't often make your rebound chick your wife. So, like, just because you were around for, like, the gutter times doesn't mean, like, you're the one who's going to bring us to the promised land.
That was a perfect analogy. I agree with you. I think that the reason he's still here is because we feel bad because he stuck with us when he was losing. But, like, those four years, I think, when he started his career, if you want to say from the process time when they're really bad trying to lose, like, how could you possibly evaluate someone as a basketball coach when all we want to do is lose?
Yeah, I wouldn't be as against Ben playing the 4. Like, I'm happy with him playing the 4 and then, like, taking the ball up occasionally. But they passed on so many point guards in building this roster and then paid up for Al Horford and Tobias. So you paid $280 million for a guy when you could have filled that position with a guy already on the roster. Like that.
Oh, without a doubt. Like, you put how much money into the power forward spot between Tobias and Al Horford, and now you're going to move another guy making a ton of money into the power forward spot? Like, it just reminds me of the early process years when we were drafting all big guys. You know, all the time. No point guards or wings of any type, but just big guys.
Back-to-back years of Nerlens Noel, Embiid, and Okafor, and none of them could play on the court at the same time. And then back-to-back years of drafting guards who can't shoot in Ben and Markelle. I don't get it.
They have no plan. They have no plan at all. They have talent, no plan, and no direction.
It's actually amazing to me how many high picks that they've had and how poorly they've done with them. Like, any other team, I can't – and, like, there's been a ton of talent in the drafts they had high picks in. Like, they are either – I don't know what's worse. They're eye for talent, like the recruiting aspect, or the player development, because –
Both.
That's why I think – well, I'm, like, one of the biggest Brett Brown haters. I wanted to get rid of him last year. But I think that they just made those moves with Tobias and Jimmy Butler, and – they were too good, like, talently. They looked like they just didn't look in sync, but talently, like, they had a great team that made up for some of his idiotic coaching. But I mean, it's just if you look at the process, I think that no one in the NBA would do this again. Like, I think what you get, there's too many variables, injuries, busts, like, you know, bad picks. Jahlil Okafor was a terrible pick, but he was also third overall. Like, you can't really do any better than third overall.
Yeah, and there was the whole Okafor for Okafor. Like, everybody thought that he was going to – like, I don't fault them for the – while Okafor was a bust, I don't fault them for taking him. I just fault them for taking him on a team where he didn't have a defined role.
Well, like, my biggest thing with Okafor was that Embiid, I know, was hurt, but you're right. These two cannot play with each other. Like, Okafor did what Mike Carter-Williams did. He had a great rookie year on a terrible team. You should have traded him after the rookie year. Like, why hold on to him until he shows the league that he sucks?
Yeah.
You got to gamble on one of them. I know Embiid was hurt, and you didn't know about the injury history, but you knew he was far superior of a player.
Yeah, I mean, I also think Brett Brown is just too soft on the players. Like, he lets them kind of do whatever they want. Like, someone needs to get Embiid in his place and make him take it seriously.
I feel like Simmons and Embiid grew up in losing with him. Like, they just – how could you fear him? You were expected to lose the first 3 years of your career with them. They pissed me off so much. I'm mad at them. It doesn't take much.
Listen, I'm a Sixers season ticket holder, okay? I'm very financially invested in that. Trust me.
You would have just been better off just lighting money on fire, because then it wouldn't – well, actually, no, they do play well at home. So they are a good investment there. But
Sixers have the highest attendance in the NBA. Did you know that?
I did not know. They have the best record, so I guess it correlates.
Yeah, they average 20,000 a game. It's the highest in the NBA.
Not bad.
Listen, the Bucks, it comes down to – I think that the motivation to keep Giannis there, I know he says all the right things. He's a good guy, and he likes Milwaukee and everything, and he's been very vocal about how he likes Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. But, like, you got to be able to win. If you always think, if LeBron James won the first time with Cleveland, would he leave? Do you think it's a coincidence that Bosh and LeBron joined Dwayne Wade, who won a championship already in Miami? If, Cleveland ends up winning, maybe he's able to bring in one guy there, and he has no interest in leaving then because he knows he can win. Yeah. If Giannis think he can win with Milwaukee and he's in a great setup, like, I think he likes the area. I think he likes the team. He's got no reason to leave. But if he doesn't think they can win, then any team in the league would take him. I think they have the most pressure on them to win. But I give them the balance that I do think that they'll still pull it out.
I think the good thing with the Bucks is that if they were in the West, I think they'd be in the same spot that the Rockets are, where they have, one of the best players in the league, but they just, for whatever reason in the playoffs, cannot get it done. I don't know if we'll ever see James Harden in a final. That team just doesn't seem like it's ever going to be poised to get there. But I think Clippers over Lakers for me, just because I look at they're like a year or two away, I think. And that's weird to say with LeBron being older, but I don't think AD's played particularly great up to his standards in the bubble. And LeBron's not at that point anymore where he can lead, like he did with the Cavs, like lead a team of scrubs almost, to the
Well,
finals
I don't
and
know
win.
about that. I wouldn't say that. Anthony Davis is hardly a scrub,
Wait,
and
Guys, fact check something. James Harden did play in the NBA Finals with the Thunder. So,
he did. Listen, I wanted to be
I meant
nice and let
Rockets.
Dakota go by because he usually makes up nonsense, but I was going to let it go because his nonsense has been to a minimum.
Someday I'm going to show that picture to my kids with James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant on one team, and they're going to think it was photoshopped.
Yeah,
Oh, I know that was
true.
he was beardless though. Wasn't the real James Harden.
That shows baby face. But you know what the
Um,
best thing? You know what the best thing going for the Bucks though is they get to go through the East. They don't have to play LeBron and Kawhi Leonard. You know, they just have to beat one of them. They're not
That's what
going to
I'm
have to play
saying.
them both.
And I think the Lakers are LeBron. Obviously, AD is great, and LeBron is great. But besides that, they got a J.R. Smith who's should just be retired at this point, and players that just there's nothing around them to help when they're like at the end of the game. They need someone to come off the bench, make a big shot when LeBron and AD have been doing everything all game. I feel like they're just not there yet where the Clippers are more in position to win. So that's my take on the West as far as Clippers over Lakers.
As the resident Laker fan of this, I spent a lot of time watching the Lakers, obviously, and dissecting the team and doing all that.
Uh-huh.
And I've like, a lot of great points. But I think the point that you're missing is we keep talking about depth. In the NBA, they only rotate 7 guys. It doesn't matter who your 8th, 9th, 10th guy is in the NBA playoffs. Like, it's
I agree. Absolutely.
That's not relevant. I get that it helps, but let's be real here. In the NBA playoffs, LeBron's playing 37 minutes. Anthony Davis is playing 37 minutes. They're going to split center time with Dwight and JaVale McGee, who are just going to protect the rim so AD can play center. They're going to have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Danny Green, and J.R. Smith just tee up threes. And you have the guy who's been to 8 straight NBA finals. He just went on a tear up. Don't forget that. He went to 8 straight finals.
Yeah.
And
Sure, I didn't forget.
that's in his,
disrespect.
in his 17th season, made the first official transition to point guard and led the NBA with over 10 assists a game in his first year. And arguably, and this is where I hate the term most valuable player. You cannot tell me that LeBron is not more valuable to the Lakers than Giannis is to the Bucks. If you take LeBron off the Lakers, they are the 7th seed in the West. Okay.
I don't know about that. I mean, like, listen, I don't know about 7th seed. The Bucks would be but who are the Bucks? The Bucks have a whole bunch of 3-point shooters, and they just benefit from the fact that they have an unstoppable force that drives the lane, and everyone collapses. Well, the Lakers would still have Anthony Davis, but I think Giannis is more valuable.
They have Anthony Davis, and what did that do for the Pelicans?
Yeah, but different teams. The Lakers still, regardless if LeBron's there or not, they have all the interest in winning. I don't think the Pelicans really ever. The Lakers team right now is probably better than what AD's ever seen on the Pelicans.
I don't know. I'm not doubting LeBron. I just think you put them together. I think the Clippers will last longer. I just think they have more tools.
Hey, I will say one last little thing, because you were shitting on poor old J.R. Smith over here before we go see the Flyers win their first playoff game. J.R. Smith has more championship rings than everyone on the Clippers team combined, besides for Kawhi Leonard. So that's a little something. I don't think there's anyone on the Bucks that have won. So he's got more rings than the whole Bucks team combined.
I mean, that's cool.
I don't know. I think George Hill might be there. He probably won one, but last little fact to pull out of nowhere.
JR is also top 10 in playoff 3-pointers. Don't know if you knew that.
That's facts. But
what years are we looking at here? Because J.R. Smith isn't like that anymore.
Yeah.
So I have Clippers winning it all. Who does everyone else have?
I have the fans. The fans are winning it all.
The fans.
I can't pick anybody at this point.
Fair enough. I'm going for I want to see Giannis stay in Milwaukee. You see so many stars leave. Yeah. I think he wins this year. I definitely think they have the most pressure on them to win. So I'm going to go Giannis and the Bucks.
And I'm going to say LeBron leads his 3rd different team to a chip.
Fair enough.
Right.
Listen, between those top 3, the Lakers, Clippers, and Bucks, I could go either way. I just think the Bucks have the benefit of going through the East.
LeBron's a different animal when it comes to the playoffs. That man is something
and this,
not from Earth.
This is my prediction. I'm going to say it first in this podcast. I think that the Bucks are going to have the biggest drop in win differential from this year to next year. I think they're going to have the biggest, because the East is going to be stronger next year. And I do not trust what they've done the last couple off seasons with their roster. I think the Nets are going to be a top 3 team. I think the Celtics are going to be stronger. I think the Sixers are going to be stronger. I think they're going to end up
like a Golden State kind of deal.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that.
Collapse.
I hear what you say on the East is getting better, but if Giannis is still on the team, I don't see them falling off that much.
I think they're going to be the 4th or 5th seed in the play. I think when we come next year back, I think they're going to be the 4th or 5th seed.
Hey, we'll see. If Giannis is on the team, I don't think so, but you are right. I do think the East is improving next year, so we'll see. But all right.
All right, fair enough.
It's been a pleasure. I look forward to the next one.
You always do.
I know.
Yeah.
All righty, guys. Well, go Flyers. We'd like to see how the NBA goes, so it's a pleasure.
All right, boys.
See you guys.
See ya. Peace.
Peace out.